Ms. Cutts.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're here today in State of Ohio versus Ashley L. Rude, case number 25 CR 00216. Defendant is present in open court today with her counsel, Jim Matthews. Your Honor, we're here today for sentencing. The defendant was last before Your Honor on March 24th of 2025, where she pled guilty by way of information to one count of domestic violence, a felony of the 4th degree. At that time, the court ordered a pre-sentence report, a psychological evaluation, and victim impact statement. The report and evaluation have been completed and provided to the court. The victim impact statement was mailed back, but was somehow not received by probation, so obviously the court has been made aware of that information. And it's the state's understanding that all parties are prepared to go to sentencing at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Your Honor. Excuse me. We are asking for community control for Ms. Rude. She's been in jail for 86 days. As a result of this incident, there is now involvement with the juvenile court in relation to custody of her daughter. Her daughter is currently staying with Ms. Rude's parents. Ms. Rude is hoping to be released so that she may immediately address that issue. She does understand in speaking with her that the most pressing issue that she has, if she's going to be successful on community control, will be dealing with her mental health issues. And she has expressed that she is prepared to deal with those issues and follow what recommendations are made, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Rude, what do you want to tell me?
I want to say I apologize for coming into your courtroom. The relationship that I was in was just a very toxic relationship and a very abusive relationship. I take full accountability for what I've done, and I've learned a very valuable lesson while within your jail. I do not plan on coming back within your jail unless it is like for me to see my probation officer. That's what's granted today. And I'm going to try to get my mental health in order.
What is the extent of your mental health issues?
I don't understand.
Well, what's your mental health diagnosis?
I have CPTSD.
You have what?
CPTSD.
What's the C stand for?
Complex.
Okay. Who diagnosed you with that?
Signature Health and Crossroads.
What is complex as opposed to regular PTSD?
It's recurrent flashbacks.
Okay. What other issues do you? What other diagnoses do you have?
I have ADHD. And
Anything else?
Yeah, intermediate explosive disorder. And I think that she said battered woman syndrome.
Okay. What treatment have you been undergoing prior to this arrest for those issues?
I go to Signature Health, and I was in EMDR therapy.
What happens at Signature Health?
I talked to my therapist.
Who's the therapist?
Leno Vanbrook
Which facility is that at?
in Willoughby,
How often did you see this therapist?
once a week.
Okay. And were you on medication?
I was supposed to start taking one. I'm only on ADHD medication right now.
Why not the other medication? Why not medication for other conditions?
In the past, I've had adverse reactions to meds, and I was afraid to take one. I've been medicated since I was a kid.
How long have you been going to Signature Health?
Since I was a kid. Since I think I was...
Constantly, at a regular basis?
Yes.
So, like, by regular, what do you mean? How often have you been going?
I go once a week to see my therapist.
How long have you been going once a week?
For the last 9 months.
Okay, what about before that?
A little after I had my daughter. My daughter was 3, and then stopped going when my daughter turned 4, and went again when my daughter turned 5.
Okay, you said you've been going regular since you were a kid.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about between when you're daughter was born and when you were a kid? How often were you going?
When I was a kid, I was going to Crossroads, and then they transferred me over to Signature Health. My parents would take me. My old therapist was Dr. Mickey.
How come any of this hasn't resolved your problems or helped your problems?
I'm still kind of trying to understand PTSD. So,
Well, you've indicated that you don't take the medication because you didn't like the medication because of the way it made you feel, right?
I've been cleared from having to take medication.
Cleared by who?
My psychiatrist, Jenna Crockett.
So why are you seeing a psychiatrist if you don't get prescribed medication?
I do get prescribed medication. I take Vyvanse. I haven't been prescribed medication for PTSD.
Why are you still trying to contact Joyner?
He lives at my house still. He has things at my house.
Okay, so that's why you were trying to get in touch with him or his family members as recently as Friday night?
We're here in court, so I was trying to see if he was going to be here in court. I talked to him also on the 21st in jail.
Okay.
He said that he spoke to the prosecutor, and he said he asked the prosecutor to drop all the charges. He told me to plead guilty to domestic violence, and that would be the only way that I get out of jail.
He told you that?
We were on the phone in jail on the 21st of last month. The
And he-
24th is when I had court, which was the following Monday.
So he told you to plead guilty to domestic violence, and that's why you pleaded guilty to it?
He said that the only way that everything will be resolved is if I was to plead guilty to domestic violence. He said that he wanted to press charges originally, but he told the prosecutor that he no longer wanted to press charges. He explained to me that the state picked it up and that he was sorry that I was pending all of these cases or these charges. We agreed to go our separate ways. We still have been slightly in communication, but we haven't been seeing each
I
other.
assume there's a no contact order, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
I don't plan on talking to him from here on out because now there's a Child Protective Services case open, and
So what happened back in February with this incident?
I don't understand.
What happened in February, this is December 31? December 31. What happened December 31 of last year?
We both were drinking. It was New Year's Eve, and things got really out of hand.
How?
We got into a serious argument. He was threatening to expose my medication bottles. I'm a licensed manicurist.
Expose your medication bottles. What do you mean?
I have, and he thought that I was cheating.
Okay.
And he was threatening to expose my medicine bottles on Facebook.
Okay.
And
So you get in this argument, and what happens?
he said that he's been waiting to set me up for quite some time because he was arrested for burglary.
All right. So then when the police arrived and you knew they were there, why were you blocking the door, keeping them from getting in? If he was threatening you?
I wasn't blocking the door. He had
You
me
were
back.
blocking the door. I've read that portion of the police report where you were blocking the door. They kept telling you move. You refused to move. And then when you finally moved is when they got in. So why were you blocking the door?
I couldn't move. He had me by my hair. We were in my living room.
Okay. All right. Why then when they went in there, why were you completely out of control and they had to carry you out? They had to call two other departments to carry you out of the door to put you in the car. And you were kicking and screaming the entire way. Why were you doing that?
I have some trauma in my background from sexual assault, and
You've got a lot of problems that you haven't dealt with. Despite what you're telling me, okay, you haven't dealt with them. You may or may not go to Signature Health, okay? But whatever you're doing there, and whatever you have done there, hasn't worked one bit. Now, you were interviewed to go to NeoCap, and you were screaming at the lady that was trying to interview you such that she couldn't interview you. Why were you doing that?
because From what I'm hearing, NeoCap has a therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a victim of sexual assault. The reason why I didn't calm down when the police came because there was
No, I'm talking about why you were screaming at this lady from NeoCap.
I don't want to go to NeoCap.
Why not?
They have cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay, what's that?
It's a therapy that's not good for people that have PTSD.
How do you know that?
I talked to my therapist, and here, her name's Bree from Signature Health.
Okay, so Bree from Signature Health told you to resist going to NeoCap.
No, she didn't say resist. She said she didn't think that would be good for me because...
Is Bree here somewhere that I can't see?
No,
Do you know who this Bree is, Megan? This is why I never sent people to Signature Health. Okay? So did you tell this person from NeoCap that you didn't want to go there because they have cognitive behavioral therapy and Bree told you it's no good for PTSD?
No, I told her that I have a daughter and it would create a separation, more time away from my daughter.
So which was it? If they didn't have cognitive behavioral therapy, would you have gone there?
No.
Okay, because of your daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't want to go there because of the cognitive behavioral therapy, because of your daughter, and why else?
Those are the only two reasons.
Okay.
I don't think that, also they don't have, from what I'm hearing, the other inmates were saying, they don't have any.
Okay, so let me stop you there, because the last thing that you should be listening to is the other inmates. Because not a one of them know what the hell they're talking about. So you'll listen to them, but you won't listen to anybody else. You won't listen to the lady from NeoCap tell you what that has to offer and why that may be good for you, because you're listening to the other inmates because they told you something about NeoCap.
The lady said that they don't have any church there either.
Okay. What lady was that?
I spoke to the NeoCap lady.
The one that you were screaming at that couldn't interview you because you were screaming at her uncontrollably? That one?
We interviewed.
You interviewed. Were you screaming at her the whole time or just
I
part of the
cried.
time?
I cried almost the whole time.
It strikes me from reading everything that you have no insight as to what your condition is. And you certainly then have no insight as to what you can do to treat your condition. That's clear to me.
I had an appointment with my psychiatrist to get on medication. I'm not medicated in jail because you guys don't even allow stimulants.
You weren't taking medication anyway because you don't want to take medication.
I was going to start taking a medication. I had an appointment set up for the 14th, but I got placed back in jail.
Why did you get placed back in jail?
Because there was a protection order, and I reached out to my ex-boyfriend to come pick up his things from my house.
Okay. So why didn't you listen to the protection order?
I should have called the police, and I hold myself accountable for that.
Why didn't you?
Because the police, when they kicked my door and they had the guns pointed at me, and it scared me.
Well, why did they have their guns pointed at you?
Because my ex-boyfriend lied and said that I had a knife and I was in front of the door.
Well, you were in front of the door, blocking them from getting in.
Oh, I was not. We were in my living room.
You were. Now, you can argue with me all day, but I'm going to get the last word, okay? Because if I have to believe the police account of it or yours based on their observations of you, I'm going to believe them 100 out of 100 times. And then you're causing problems when you're in the jail. Reports of you causing problems with other inmates when you're in the jail. You were causing a problem on a certain range, and they told you to calm down. They tried to talk to you. You wouldn't listen. And then there was a lockdown. So you have no insight into your condition, the severity of your condition. You certainly don't know what to do to make it better. That's where you're at.
I had an appointment scheduled for the 14th of last month. I didn't make it to the appointment.
How long have you been in jail?
Since the 12th of February.
And you scheduled an appointment for April 14th?
When I was out on bond.
Okay.
I saw the discovery packet. I do realize that it does not look okay. I've been out of work since last October. I pulled myself out of work. I'm on a medical leave from work. I know that I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, I know. My condition is not always bad. It's gotten really bad. It's not always bad. That's why I haven't always been medicated. I've been cleared by my psychiatrist and I have to be medicated. Post-traumatic stress disorder with CPTSD is different than the average PTSD. It's recurrent. So it can leave, symptoms can leave.
Well,
and then they can come
PTSD
back.
by its nature is recurrent.
From what I'm hearing and from what I've been told by my psychiatrist, mine is not always a triggered severity, which I've worked 2 jobs before.
You got to decide if you want to get help for your conditions, or you don't want to get help, and you can try to figure out how to deal with your conditions by yourself, which has been wholly unsuccessful. You can decide how you want to do it.
I have a new therapist and I like her. She's been helping me a lot. And I have tried to help myself. I pulled myself out of work and I have been consistently, when I was not in jail, I was consistently going to my therapist and I was consistently going to my psychiatrist. So it's not, I haven't been unsuccessful when it comes to that.
The same people that told you not to go to NeoCap because they have cognitive behavioral therapy.
She didn't say not to go. She just said that she doesn't think that I would do well with my condition being within NeoCap.
Okay. And once again, that's why I don't have people go to Signature Health. Ms.
Do you
Cutts?
recommend usually people go to Crossroads?
No, and especially not Crossroads. Ms. Cutts?
Thank you, Your Honor. And as is a situation I know the court is aware, when the police were called, Mr. Joyner was indicating he wasn't able to leave the residence and he wanted to leave. The police came. Nobody would open the door. They specifically were asking the defendant to open the door. Her voice was closer to the door. After the officers were on the outside of the door asking, then they heard motions and it sounded like an assault was in progress. They did kick in the door. When they entered the residence, they saw the defendant striking Mr. Joyner in the living room. At that point, 2 were separated. Mr. Joyner was found to have a bump on his head. He did have some physical harm. They had been in a relationship for an extended period of time. The relationship obviously facilitated the offense, which is obviously part of what domestic violence indicates. In this case, the defendant's daughter was in the residence as well while this was occurring. At that time, I believe she was either 6 or 7 years of age. During the time that the police were trying to take the defendant into custody and remove her from the residence, she was resistant to that, sitting down, screaming and yelling, created quite a scene in the location. As the court indicated, they did have to call other departments for assistance in removing her from the apartment. When she was in the police cruiser, she was also kicking in the cruiser. When she got to the Lake County Jail, she did cooperate to the state's understanding with the jail staff. Defendant does have a history of juvenile adjudications as well as adult convictions. Her juvenile conviction or adjudications began in 2004 with the domestic violence and misdemeanor of the 4th degree. She did have a probation violation for fighting and for cutting her ankle monitor. Her probation was continued. In 2007, she has disorderly conduct adjudication. It began as an F4 assault but was reduced to the disorderly conduct. 2008, an adjudication for disorderly conduct. 2009, she had first a single assault case and then a second case with 2 counts of assault. She had a probation violation in that case. In 2010, as a juvenile, she had an adjudication for domestic violence found in the 4th degree and then a separate case of 2 counts of assault misdemeanors. There was another case that was just dismissed as assaultive nature. As an adult, she began her criminal convictions in 2011 with a misdemeanor domestic violence. She did have a probation violation in 2012. She had 2 different cases. One was assault, misdemeanor. The other was attempted aggravated assault, felony 5, assault M1, and criminal trespass M4. 2016, she has disorderly conduct taunting. 2021, possession of marijuana. and a separate disorderly conduct. There also appears to have been another disorderly conduct that she failed to appear for. It does not appear to be a conviction. I believe it was sent to collections. She has had other interactions with law enforcement that did not go through to court. There's an active protection order out of Cuyahoga County. The state's understanding the defendant's parents, Candace and Robert Rood, received a protection order that began on June 3rd of 2024 and is in place until June 2nd of 2029. As far as indicated, there were concerns in the jail with not listening, with bullying and threatening, per the jail's information. Defendant did violate her bond. Her bond was revoked after she was in contact with Mr. Joyner. Very soon after she was released, she attempted to call him multiple times and then sent him text messages. He was not responding to those. The information that the state received yesterday is that as recently as Friday, the defendant was trying to contact Mr. Joyner, and he said he just hung up, but she's also contacting his family and trying to add them on social media. He would like that to all stop, and he just wants them to move on. Gave additional information to the court in chambers as well. Based on all of that, the state is concerned whether the defendant will follow rules of probation. She hasn't had a felony since 2012. This is her second adult felony. She does have a history of assaults and domestic violence. If the court does give her an opportunity at community control, the states would request some sort of either NeoCap or residential treatment. We are concerned about her being out in the community without that additional support of an inpatient setup. She has 86 days credit. We'd also ask for a mental health evaluation, follow our recommendations, a psychiatric evaluation regarding medications, follow our recommendations. She engaged in anger management, individual trauma counseling, no use of drugs and alcohols, that all screens come back negative, that she have one doctor, one dentist, one pharmacy, unless specialists are needed, that she sign all releases. She's prescribed any medications, that she take them only as prescribed. She engaged in full-time work, that she have no contact with Mr. Joyner, whether it be through family, through other people, through calls, through text messages, no contact, and that she be aware if she's given this opportunity, if she violates, she would be looking at 18 months in prison. And that would be the state's recommendation at this time.
All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report and the psychological evaluation, listened to the defendant and counsel have considered all the provisions of 29, 29, 11, 12, and 13. I'm going to place you on community control for 5 years. You're going to serve 106 days in jail with credit for 86. You're to have no drugs or alcohol, and you'll be screened. You're going to enter into the Mentor Municipal Court Mental Health Treatment Program and comply with all their conditions and follow all their recommendations. You're to go to only one medical doctor, one dentist, and one pharmacy for prescription medication. Take your medication as is prescribed. Sign releases for probation. No contact with Willis Joyner or any member of his family, and don't have anybody else make any contact with any of them. The appropriate time, obtain and maintain full employment, pay the cost and supervision fees. Ms. Wehagen, any other terms? All right. Somebody's going to come to see you in the jail by the name of Jamie Dials from the Mentor Mental Health Program. He's going to talk to you. And I suggest you don't scream and yell at him to prevent the interview from happening, that you talk to him, because they have a very specialized program working with a whole bunch of people that are in this business that can help you, but only if you want to be helped by them. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you don't want to be helped by them, scream at them, don't do the interview, and I'll find you violated and send you to prison if that's what you want. Okay? You can either try to help yourself, because this has been going on for more than 20 years with you. And nothing you have done has worked. Nothing you have done has helped you. It's only gotten worse. So figure out if you want something or somebody or some program to help you. Or spend the next 20 years kicking around in and out of prison. That's up to you. Anything else, Ms. Cutts?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Matthews?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
That's it.
All rise.